So you look simply stunning today. Ed, you look amazing as well. At this point, this stage it's worth pointing out I've got a small wager on some of the boys here that I can make Ed cry in this speech. He nearly wobbled at the church, he nearly went just then. I think we can tip him over the edge. I can say this with quite a lot of confidence because I've seen Ed cry consistently on two main occasions. Weddings, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to get him today, but also during the X Factor. Actually, he also cried in his stag do, but we're not allowed to mention that. I do have a video of it. Watch it. It's quite emotional, but please come and see me later. When Ed and I first discussed making these speeches, I was quite surprised that he told me he was looking forward to his. He said it would be one of the few opportunities he could speak publicly with Rachel by his side, where she's less likely to interrupt, and he gets to share his own views for a change. On a slightly more formal note, Ed and Rachel asked me to thank all of those who helped make this day possible, particularly Pauline and Bob, and also Margaret and Roger for such a wonderful day. The venue is amazing, the food was amazing, and hopefully Ed will dance later, and based on experience, that's normally pretty amazing. Also, thank you to the bridesmaids for getting Rachel to the church on time. You did a fantastic job, and you all look absolutely amazing. Ed and Rachel also asked me to thank those that helped fund their honeymoon. Without you paying the postage on your own invitations, they'll be spending the next few weeks in Bognor in a caravan. Instead, they're going to be in Bali for a few weeks, which is absolutely lovely. Not the most discreet of cost-cutting tactics. Also on that note, Ed asked me to let you know there's a jukebox in the corner for the music later. It's 3 songs for £1. The money's going to be going to funding Ed's season ticket at Highbury next season. The Spurs aren't that great, so he's going to change teams. Can I just ask, when it comes to the jukebox, can you not play any Britney Spears? Having seen the songs at the having seen the dancing at the hen do, I'm not sure Roger can take it. Ed and I first met at university, and it didn't take very long for me to realise that he had quite a wicked sense of humour. One of the first nights we went out, we played a drinking game to get to know each other. Not like that. The aim of the game was to guess each other's middle names. It's obviously been mentioned quite a lot today already. Basically, you had to guess. If you got it wrong, you took a sip of your drink. Now, my middle name is Peter. Ed, on the other hand, is Walwyn. Now, I'm not even sure this is an actual name. Margaret, Roger, what on earth will you think? Did you not anticipate this game may one day be played? Naturally, I got absolutely wasted. Ed found it hilarious, and we've been great friends ever since. When Ed asked me to be his best man, naturally I was incredibly honoured. He came up to me and went, "It's you." And I initially thought it was an accusation. I immediately panicked and thought he'd found out it was me that put his hand in water at the university to make him wet himself once. Luckily, I realised what he was really asking. I'm also incredibly excited because Ed said if I do a good job today, I could be best man at his next wedding. Now, I'm supposed to use the next part of the speech to dig into Ed's dark, sordid, and filthy past by revealing many of his embarrassing stories. It's more difficult because generally I was by Ed's side, encouraging him or participating. Now, I'm not interested in damaging his marriage, but my girlfriend is here in the audience. She is a Geordie, and when they get angry, it's not pretty. Luckily for me, Ed's got more than one friend, so we do have some stories to tell. Now, you're going to notice quite a strong trend in these stories. They generally go a little bit something like this. I popped out for a quick beer, I got a little carried away, I was sick, and then something bad happens. When I was preparing this speech, Ed gave me a list of topics I wasn't allowed to discuss. I've got them here for us all to enjoy. Drunkenly punching a wall in anger, breaking his arm. Jumping over a fence, drunk, breaking his wrist. Torching his own Nova. Now, apparently he didn't do this, but I knew he wanted a new car at the time, and I'm pretty sure he did it. I know you were really upset about his Margaret, and you did actually cry, didn't you? It was a 1.3 SR, it was quite quick. Incidentally, when he lived in Greenwich, the Cutty Sark also burnt down. Now, I'm not pointing any fingers, but I'm pretty sure he might be a pyromaniac, so if this place burns down afterwards, we know where to point the finger. There's another particular line he said don't mention, it's just gone down in history as that night in fire, and I am talking about the club in Vauxhall. I like to call it his night of self-discovery. He calls it awkward. There's also quite a series of holidays he's told me not to mention. Ballarat 01, Cavus 02, Mali 03, Mali 04, Mali 05, I don't know what the hell he got up to. The weird thing is he kept wanting to go back to Mali. And the only cute clue I got about this is when I found a card in his house congratulating him on the engagement. I just want to read it out to you. Dear Ed, sorry to hear about the wedding. Topless Tuesdays won't be the same without you. All the boys, the pink flamingo. I can't put my finger on what's going on, but it's strange. Now, it's about a year and a half ago, Ed and I were sitting in the pub, having a pint as always, and he suddenly went a little bit serious. As you know, Ed, this doesn't happen too often. He turned to me and said, Joff, how do you feel about marriage? I said, whoa, 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 I'm flattered. That kiss at uni? It was a one-off. Just forget that and leave it in the past. He said, no, no, I'm talking about me and Rachel. I said, okay, sorry. I got carried away too. He said, I love her dearly, and I think I'm ready, but of course it's a big decision. Will she say yes? I knew I had to give the man some confidence, and I reminded him of the first time he went to see the parents. Now, prior to meeting them, he was incredibly, incredibly nervous, which to me was a very clear indication that he was taking it seriously. Oh no. He told me that he'd never met a deputy headmaster in his life in all his school years where the meeting had gone well. He also told me that branded him that boy from London. I know. Luckily, I told him not to worry. He was a great man, and I knew that when he went there, they'd love him. He trotted off to somewhere in the west, Gloucester, and as suspected, they met him and thought he was absolutely amazing. This led me to think about what makes Ed special and what Rachel really sees in him. Now, as a primary school teacher with expertise in special measures, my suspicion is Rachel saw this as a bit of a challenge and a chance for career development. And I have to say, Rachel, you've done an unbelievable job. He's now got a reading age of an 11-year-old. His spoken word has come on tremendously, and next year he's hoping to take his GCSEs. In my mission to understand what made Ed a great man, I had a discussion with him in the pub about the character traits he felt amazing, or the character traits that he felt made him amazing. I posed him a question, Ed, what makes you great? Quickly and confidently he responded, academic. I said, try again. I explained to him it's a discussion between friends, there's no need to lie, you've already got the girl, it's not a date in sight, there's no one to impress. He said, okay. He thought about it a little longer and said, honest. After your first response, I'd expected something better. He said, just put in brackets most of the time. At this point I realised it was going to be a long conversation. He said, okay, give me another one of these. And he goes, reliable. And I have to say, Ed is truly a very reliable person, and it's a good trait to have. At uni, he'd always come out to the pub, and he'd always get the drunkest. But to be honest with Ed, since he's moved to Oxford from London, he'll always come to every event you ask him to, whether he has to move heaven and earth together, and if he only turns up for 4 or 5 pints only. Next, he turns to me and says, cultural awareness. Now, I don't know if you know it, but he's not that culturally aware. I responded and said, really? And he said, well, I did grow up in Gravesend. I won't argue that it's a multicultural place. The first story that came to mind with Ed was a holiday he had in Spain. He's out for a meal and the Spanish waiter comes to him and says, is the wine to your liking? Calmly and confidently, and in his best French accent, he replies, oui. Cultural awareness at its best. He's starting to get the hang of the game now, and he looks at me and goes, competitive. And I'm sure you'll agree, Rachel aside, Ed is one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. At primary school, he was a well-regarded member of the chess club. At secondary school, he joined the Cub Scouts and could always be sitting on arcades and in. But more importantly, his prowess on the badminton court should not be forgotten. That's right, Ron. You're right. I understand he helped the Bath badminton squad to the national finals by getting so drunk he missed selection. He also told me that every week he attended training. Due to the sheer intensity of the workout, he'd be sick. Now, if I put 2 and 2 together, I'm pretty sure it's because before training, he'd be doing as many Jaeger bombs as he could until he was full, but he still denies them. The next character trait he gave me was spontaneity. And this is very true and a great trait. At university, he'd spontaneously move from one pub to the next, and then spontaneously be sick. But there's another story that really stands out in my mind quite vividly. This relates to a journey he made back from Glastonbury once. Now, his state can only be described as somewhat of a bit of a mess, and he struggled back to London. He made it 200 yards, after travelling all that way, he made it 200 yards from his flat in Greenwich, and it all got a little bit too much. Overcome with tiredness, he decides his best and only option is to have a little rest, and he must rest there and then. He sees a doorway, lies down on the pavement, and actually had a little sleep in broad daylight as people just casually passed. He must actually look homeless, and having been in Glasgow, he probably smelled homeless as well. The final character trait that he told me was humorous. I'm sure we'll all agree that Ed is a funny, funny man who come out with some fantastic one-liners, even in the most difficult situations. One sunny weekend, Ed makes his way down to Swansea to spend the weekend on our friend Grant's boat. As usual, he got a little bit drunken, a little bit boozy. Everyone retired to bed for the evening, and because it was incredibly hot that summer, Ed decided to sleep naked. As you do when you're sharing a room full of men. In the middle of the night, Ed gets the urge for the toilet, and covertly and very nakedly makes his way to the bathroom. So not to wake anyone, Ed leaves the light off, and goes about his business. Pleased with his accuracy, he fumbles for the door and makes his way back into the living room where all the boys are quietly sleeping. However, unbeknown to Ed, and due to his drunken state, he didn't realise this toilet possessed two doors. One to the lounge and one to the master bedroom. Ed feels around in the dark for the bed. Moments later, the lights go on. Grant's father shouts, "What the hell are you doing? My wife's in here." Ed completely startled, gets stage fright, freezes, completely immobile. Grant's father's only option is to take Ed back to bed, very naked, very drunk, and lay him to rest. Ed wakes up the next day, looks at Grant and simply says, "Grant, I think something bad happened." I asked Rachel the same question, and she came across and said, "Funny, loyal to her and her family, supportive of her career, fun, and he possesses the rare ability to say no to her." And for me, it's all these attributes that make Ed a great, great man, and why I'm incredibly proud to call him my closest friend. From the very beginning, Ed had absolute confidence that Rachel would be his future. I remember we were sitting in the pub and we were talking relationships. He hadn't been with Rachel very long at all, and he told me how much he cared for her and how he was sure she was the one. I asked how he could be so sure. He simply said to me, "Joff, when you know, you know. Now get me a pint." I got a message from Jezard last night, which I've added on this morning. He says he's absolutely gutted he can't be here with you. All the best and sorry he can't be here. He gave me a short story and he said he remembers when you guys first met, sitting in the pub having a beer in the Southwark Tavern. Don't worry, it's not that story. I will tell that one if you want. Rachel thought she was texting Ed, it wasn't, it was Jezard. And he's quite smutty. So is Rachel. I've got those here as well if you're interested. But basically, Ed was ignoring absolutely anything Alex said, texting like a little girl, and grinning like a Cheshire cat, which I think is testament to the fact that Ed knew he was going to be with Rachel forever. Rachel, thank you for making Ed so happy. You really do bring out the best in him. I'm not saying you were rubbish before, but sometimes two people are better as a whole than they are as individuals. It's been a pleasure watching the relationship grow from the initial flirtations with Jezard to buying a home together. And I'm excited when I think about what the future will bring for you both. Rachel, I know you'll look after Ed, and all I can ask is that you let him come out and play with me from time to time. As I draw to a close, I just want to share one quote that I found whilst researching this lecture. May your love be modern enough to survive the times, but old-fashioned enough to last forever. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please ask you to be upstanding and join me in a toast to Mr. and Mrs. Eden.